The diplomatic chamber of the United Earth Council gleamed with a cold, sterile precision that matched the tension crackling through the air. Polished graphene walls reflected the holographic displays, each surface alive with data streams and diplomatic communiques that told the story of humanity's most critical moment. Ambassador Marcus Reyes stood motionless, his dark olive skin a stark contrast against the pristine white diplomatic uniform. Years of negotiation, decades of careful diplomatic maneuvering, had led to this moment. His right hand, almost imperceptibly, clenched into a fist behind his back, the only outward sign of the storm brewing beneath his calm exterior. The Centauri delegation entered like a nightmare given form. Their biomechanical exoskeletons clicked and whirred with each deliberate step, a sound that echoed through the chamber like the approach of something fundamentally wrong. Senior diplomat Krasnak led the procession, his scaled skin shifting through hues of deep purple and slate gray, a biological display of emotional complexity that humans were still struggling to fully interpret. Global news networks broadcast the event on every possible channel. From the crowded megacities of New Shanghai to the underwater habitats of the Pacific Rim, billions of human eyes were locked onto this moment. The older generations remembered first contact, that terrifying day when humanity discovered it was not alone in the universe. The younger generations watched with a mixture of defiance and curiosity that had become humanity's trademark. Krasnak's translator, a sophisticated quantum-entangled device that captured not just words but subtle nuances of communication, began to speak. The alien's voice emerged as a carefully modulated sound that seemed to bypass human ears and drill directly into the brain. "Representatives of Earth," the diplomat began, each word dripping with a condescension that was both calculated and deeply ingrained. "Your species has demonstrated a remarkable capacity for survival. Primitive, yes. Unpredictable, certainly. But survivors nonetheless." The holographic display behind Krasnak shimmered, revealing the massive spacecraft that had been towed into the solar system. It was a behemoth of incomprehensible design, kilometers long, its hull a complex lattice of materials that seemed to shift and breathe even when stationary. Sensor readings from Earth's most advanced research stations had been inconclusive. The ship defied conventional understanding of physics, material science, and spacecraft design. "We present to you," Krasnak continued, "a gift, a reminder of the vast technological gulf that separates our civilizations." Marcus Reyes knew this was no gift. It was a psychological weapon, a carefully constructed insult designed to demonstrate the Centauri's technological superiority. The massive spacecraft looked less like a functional vessel and more like a floating tomb, a monument to human inadequacy. But the Centauri had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. Where other species might have been cowed, might have accepted the implied inferiority, humans saw something entirely different. The spacecraft represented a challenge, a puzzle waiting to be solved, an opportunity disguised as an impossible obstacle. The global response was instantaneous and quintessentially human. Social media exploded with memes, technical analysis, and wild speculation. Research institutions across the planet began mobilizing. Universities cleared research budgets. Private corporations saw a potential goldmine of technological innovation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, head of the newly formed Zenov Technology Research Division, was already drafting her initial analysis. Her team would be the first to truly examine the vessel, to begin unraveling its mysteries. Where the Centauri saw a weapon of psychological warfare, Walsh saw the most exciting scientific challenge of the century. Krasnak finished his speech, expecting a response of defeat or submission. Instead, Ambassador Reyes stepped forward, a slight smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "We accept your gift," he said simply. The words hung in the air, laden with a meaning that the Centauri diplomat could not yet comprehend. Behind the diplomatic facade, humanity was already moving. Research teams were being assembled. Computational models were being developed. The most brilliant minds on the planet were turning their full attention to the impossible spacecraft. The Centauri had intended to humiliate humanity. They had made a catastrophic mistake. In that moment, as the broadcast continued and the massive spacecraft loomed in the background, the first seeds of humanity's greatest technological revolution were being planted. The research facility sat nestled within the Rocky Mountain Complex, a state-of-the-art research center that had been hastily converted to accommodate humanity's most critical scientific challenge. Dr. Jennifer Walsh stood before a massive holographic display, her fingers dancing across quantum interface panels that flickered with streams of incomprehensible data. "We're looking at something beyond anything in human technological history," she announced to the assembled team of researchers, engineers, and chinotechnology specialists. Kyle Rodriguez, her lead engineer, adjusted the holographic projections. The spacecraft's internal structure emerged like a three-dimensional puzzle, a labyrinth of interconnected systems that defied traditional understanding of engineering. Quantum entanglement patterns danced between structural nodes. Energy conduits twisted in geometries that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. "It's not just a ship," Rodriguez muttered, zooming into a particularly complex junction. "It's more like a living computational matrix." The team represented the best of human scientific diversity. Dr. Elena Sharma, a quantum physics specialist from Mumbai, worked alongside Marcus Green, a materials engineer from the New African Union. Beside them, Yuki Nakamura from the Tokyo Advanced Research Institute studied energy transfer systems with an intensity that bordered on obsession. Their first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. James Harper, a junior technician with a reputation for unconventional thinking, had been analyzing the ship's cooling systems. Most researchers had dismissed these as standard thermal management components. But Harper saw something different. "Look at this," he called out, his voice cutting through the ambient hum of sophisticated equipment. A holographic representation of molecular interactions expanded, revealing a network of quantum communication pathways hidden within what appeared to be simple thermal regulation systems. Dr. Walsh approached, her eyes narrowing. "Explain." Harper's hands moved across the interface, pulling apart layers of molecular interactions. "These aren't just cooling systems. They're a communication network. The entire ship is basically one massive, interconnected computational system." The implications were staggering. Where the Centauri had presented the spacecraft as a tomb, humans were discovering it was more like a dormant brain, complex, adaptive, waiting to be understood. Funding poured in from every direction. Governments, private corporations, and international research consortiums committed unprecedented resources. The global scientific community had effectively declared a unified mission: unlock the secrets of this alien technology. Dr. Sharma began developing specialized quantum interface protocols. Traditional computing methods were useless. They needed an entirely new approach to interact with a system that seemed to think and communicate in ways human technology couldn't yet comprehend. "We're not just reverse engineering," she explained during a global research briefing. "We're learning an entirely new language of technological communication." Marcus Green's materials team made their own discovery. The ship's hull wasn't constructed, it was grown. Molecular structures showed signs of adaptive capabilities that blurred the line between engineering and biological development. Some sections appeared to be capable of self-repair, with molecular structures that could reshape themselves in response to environmental stress. Weeks turned into months. The research facility became a fortress of innovation. Security was unprecedented. Every discovered detail was classified at the highest levels. The Centauri continued to monitor, believing the ship would remain an incomprehensible mystery. They were wrong. Piece by piece, the human team began to understand, not by blindly copying alien technology, but by reimagining it. Where the Centauri saw a fixed system, humans saw potential for adaptation, for transformation. Kyle Rodriguez developed the first breakthrough interface, a quantum computational model that could partially communicate with the ship's core systems. It wasn't complete control, not yet, but it was a beginning. "We're not just reading the technology, Rodriguez told Dr. Walsh during a late-night strategy session. "We're teaching it to speak our language." The ship responded in ways no one expected. Subtle energy fluctuations, quantum resonance patterns that seemed to pulse with something almost like curiosity. It wasn't alive, not in any traditional sense, but it was responsive. As the first month of research concluded, Dr. Walsh gathered her team for a critical assessment. The holographic display showed their progress, a web of human understanding slowly mapping the alien technology's complexity. "They gave us a floating tomb," she said, a smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "We're turning it into something they never anticipated." The Centauri monitoring stations continued to watch, unaware that with each passing day, humanity was not just understanding the spacecraft, they were reimagining the very concept of technological possibility. The transformation began with a whisper, not a roar. Dr. Jennifer Walsh watched as Alex Harper, the same junior technician who had first uncovered the quantum communication pathways, made a breakthrough that would change everything. His workstation was a controlled chaos of holographic interfaces, quantum computational models spinning like intricate digital galaxies. "I found a way to translate," Harper said, his voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. "Not just read. Translate." The research facility had become something between a scientific monastery and a war room. Researchers worked in shifts that blurred the lines between day and night. Global teams collaborated across continents, sharing data through quantum-encrypted networks that made traditional internet communication look like smoke signals. The key was adaptation. Where the Centauri saw technology as a fixed system, humans saw it as a living, breathing language waiting to be understood and rewritten. Dr. Elena Sharma's quantum interface team developed a revolutionary approach. Instead of trying to directly copy alien technology, they created adaptive translation protocols. Each computational model was like a linguistic bridge, allowing human technological concepts to communicate with the ship's core systems. Kyle Rodriguez called it technological pidgin, a hybrid language that merged human computational thinking with the alien vessel's fundamental communication matrix. The first successful translation came during a late-night session. A power system that had previously been incomprehensible suddenly began to make sense. Not just its current configuration, but its potential configurations. The researchers realized the ship wasn't just a vessel. It was a computational organism capable of near-infinite reconfiguration. "Look at this," Rodriguez said, pulling up a holographic representation that made the assembled researchers gasp. The power transfer systems could be reimagined entirely. Where traditional human spacecraft relied on rigid power distribution, this alien technology could redistribute energy like a living nervous system. A damage to one section could immediately be compensated by rerouting power from multiple other sources. It wasn't just efficient, it was adaptive in a way that seemed almost biological. Marcus Green's materials research team made their own breakthrough. The ship's hull wasn't just a protective layer. It was a massive computational matrix. Molecular structures could reconfigure themselves in response to external stimuli. A breach could be instantly sealed. Structural integrity could be maintained through a complex dance of molecular realignment. The global scientific community watched in awe. Funding poured in from every possible source. Governments that had been rivals weeks ago now collaborated with unprecedented openness. Private corporations saw the potential for technologies that could revolutionize everything from space exploration to energy production. Dr. Walsh understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just about reverse engineering an alien spacecraft. This was about fundamentally reimagining what technology could be. Modular weapon platforms emerged from their research, systems that could reconfigure faster than thought. Defense mechanisms that learned and adapted with each millisecond of interaction. The researchers were essentially teaching the ship to think like a human, flexible, creative, always searching for unexpected solutions. A breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. Dr. Sharma's quantum team worked alongside computer security experts, creating adaptive defensive protocols that could predict and counter potential threats before they fully materialized. It's like teaching the ship to have intuition, Harper explained during a global research briefing. Not just following preset algorithms, but actually anticipating potential challenges. The Centauri monitoring stations began to shift from amusement to concern. Their psychological weapon was transforming into something they could never have anticipated. By the third month of research, the ship had become something entirely new. Not an alien vessel, not a human spacecraft, but a hybrid creation that represented the best of both technological approaches. Rodriguez discovered a way to create computational modules that could be instantly reconfigured. A weapon system could become a communication array. A defensive shield could transform into an energy production unit. The boundaries between different technological functions became fluid, dynamic. "We're not just copying," Dr. Walsh told her team during a critical strategy session. "We're evolving the very concept of technological design." The ship responded to their efforts in ways that seemed almost like communication. Energy patterns shifted. Quantum resonance fields danced with a complexity that suggested something beyond mere mechanical response. As the first successful full-system integration test approached, the research team knew they were standing at the precipice of a technological revolution. The Centauri had intended to humiliate humanity. Instead, they had provided the ultimate catalyst for human innovation. The floating tomb was becoming a living testament to human potential. The Kepler system hung like a jewel of scientific possibility. Chosen for its isolation and complex gravitational environment, it would become the proving ground for humanity's most audacious technological experiment. Mission control at the Rocky Mountain Research Facility was a cathedral of contained tension. Thousands of researchers, engineers, and specialists watched with a collective breath held in anticipation. Dr. Jennifer Walsh stood at the central command platform, her hand steady despite the magnitude of the moment. "Prometheus Rising is prepped for initial systems test," announced Kyle Rodriguez, his voice cutting through the ambient hum of advanced equipment. The modified spacecraft looked nothing like its original alien design. Humanity had transformed the vessel into something entirely new, a hybrid of alien complexity and human innovative spirit. Quantum computational arrays glimmered with an iridescent sheen. Adaptive hull sections seemed to breathe with potential energy. Dr. Elena Sharma managed the quantum interface team. Years of research had led to this moment, a comprehensive systems test that would prove whether their months of work had been a revolutionary breakthrough or an elaborate scientific fantasy. Initiating primary quantum resonance sequence, Rodriguez called out. The first signs were subtle. Energy patterns began to shift in ways that defied conventional understanding. Quantum entanglement matrices lit up across the ship's computational core, creating a network of communication more complex than any human-designed system. Then everything changed. The spacecraft generated a localized wormhole, not through brute force technological manipulation, but through a computational dance that suggested the vessel was thinking, adapting, communicating. Gravitational sensors went wild. The wormhole formation was precise, controlled, almost elegant. "Impossible," muttered Dr. Marcus Green, watching the sensor readings. "That's not just technology. That's something else." Global news networks picked up the transmission. Millions watched as the impossible became reality. The spacecraft redirected massive energy streams with a precision that made modern weaponry look like primitive toys. Defensive fields materialized, reconfiguring themselves faster than any known computational system could process. Aboard the Centauri monitoring stations, panic began to set in. Senior diplomat Krasnak watched the transmission with mounting horror. The psychological weapon they had presented to humanity was transforming into something far more dangerous. Each sensor reading was a knife edge of technological nightmare. "This cannot be," the diplomat muttered, his translator rendering the words with a mix of disbelief and growing terror. The test continued. The spacecraft demonstrated capabilities that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics: energy redirection, gravitational manipulation, computational matrices that could predict and counter potential threats before they'd fully materialized. Dr. Walsh saw something deeper, This wasn't just about technological capability. This was a demonstration of human potential, the ability to take something foreign, incomprehensible, and transform it into a tool of unprecedented possibility. "We're not just reverse engineering," she said quietly to Rodriguez. "We're rewriting the fundamental understanding of technological potential." The Centauri monitoring systems continued to track every microsecond of the test. What they saw defied their most advanced predictive models. The spacecraft was learning, adapting, evolving with each moment of interaction. Global reaction was instantaneous. Scientific institutions around the world celebrated. Governments that had been rivals weeks ago now scrambled to understand the implications. Private corporations saw potential technologies that could revolutionize everything from space exploration to energy production. As the test concluded, the spacecraft didn't just return to its original configuration. It maintained a state of adaptive readiness, a computational organism that seemed to pulse with potential. Rodriguez's final report was succinct. Initial tests successful. System demonstrates unprecedented adaptive capabilities. But that was a massive understatement. What humanity had created was more than a spacecraft. It was a living testament to human innovation, a hybrid technological marvel that represented the best of human creativity, collaboration, and relentless pursuit of understanding. The Centauri had intended to humiliate humanity. They had instead provided the ultimate catalyst for a technological revolution. In the cold silence of the Kepler system, Prometheus Rising waited, a promise of humanity's potential, forged from an alien gift of derision. The first Centauri attack came without warning. A squadron of 6 advanced warships dropped out of faster-than-light transit at the edge of the Sol system. Their biomechanical hulls gleamed with weaponry that had decimated countless civilizations. Plasma cannons charge. Quantum destabilization fields hummed with destructive potential. Senior Commander Vexnak led the assault, his reptilian features twisted into a mask of calculated aggression. Intelligence reports suggested humanity's modified spacecraft was nothing more than an elaborate bluff. This would be a surgical demonstration of Centauri technological superiority. At the Rocky Mountain Research Facility, alarms erupted milliseconds after the Centauri ships entered detection range. Dr. Jennifer Walsh and Kyle Rodriguez were already in motion, their team moving with a precision that spoke of extensive preparation. "Prometheus Rising is responding," Rodriguez called out, his fingers dancing across quantum interface panels. The spacecraft wasn't just defending. It was anticipating. Before the Centauri could launch their first coordinated attack, Prometheus Rising had already mapped their tactical approaches. Quantum computational matrices predicted weapon trajectories with impossible accuracy. Energy redirection systems began to form defensive configurations that seemed to bend the very laws of tactical engagement. The first plasma volley should have vaporized a significant portion of Earth's orbital defense network. Instead, the energy simply dissipated. Aboard the Lid Centauri vessel, Commander Vexnak watched in growing horror. Their most advanced weapons were being neutralized before they could even fully materialize. Weapon systems that had brought entire civilizations to their knees were rendered useless by something that defied comprehension. "Impossible," he muttered, his translation device rendering the word with a mix of disbelief and mounting terror. Dr. Elena Sharma's quantum interface team had developed something beyond a traditional defense system. Prometheus Rising wasn't just blocking attacks, it was learning from them. Each attempted strike became data. Each weapon's signature was instantly analyzed, understood, and countered. The battle transformed into something more than a military engagement. It was a computational dance of unprecedented complexity. Centauri ships found their own weapon systems redirected against them. Quantum destabilization fields collapsed. Plasma cannons mysteriously realigned, targeting their own vessels. What should have been a surgical strike became a nightmare of technological reversal. Global news networks picked up the transmission. Millions watched as the impossible unfolded. Humanity's modified spacecraft wasn't just defending, it was systematically dismantling one of the most advanced military forces in the known galaxy. Dr. Walsh understood the deeper significance. This was more than a military victory. This was a demonstration of human potential, the ability to take something foreign and incomprehensible and transform it into a tool of unprecedented capability. "We're not just defending," she told Rodriguez quietly. "We're teaching them a fundamental lesson about human innovation." The battle lasted less than 17 minutes. When the electromagnetic dust settled, not a single Centauri vessel remained intact. Prometheus Rising hung in space, not as a conquering weapon, but as a sentinel of unexpected potential. Diplomatic channels erupted. The Centauri Confederation's communication networks went into immediate lockdown. Senior leadership scrambled to understand how a species they had considered primitive had so completely neutralized their most advanced military assets. Commander Vexnak's final transmission was a study in contained terror. They did not just defend, he reported to his superiors. They reimagined the very concept of defensive technology. Back on Earth, the research team celebrated with a mixture of professional pride and scientific excitement. They had done more than create a defensive system. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about human potential. Dr. Rodriguez's analysis was succinct. The spacecraft doesn't just respond to threats. It learns. It adapts. It evolves. The Centauri had attempted to humiliate humanity with a floating tomb of alien technology. They had instead provided the ultimate catalyst for a technological revolution. Prometheus Rising waited in the cold silence of space, a living testament to human creativity, collaboration, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. Dr. Jennifer Walsh understood something profound. The most powerful weapon wasn't technological, it was psychological. The global communication strategy began with calculated precision. Each broadcast, each demonstration of Prometheus Rising's capabilities was a carefully crafted message designed to reshape the galactic understanding of human potential. The research facility transformed into a strategic command center, where military strategists once planned invasions, now a team of scientists, communication experts, and diplomatic specialists choreographed a campaign of technological demonstration. Kyle Rodriguez managed the technical aspects. Dr. Elena Sharma oversaw the quantum communication protocols. Marcus Green handled the materials science presentations. Their team wasn't just sharing data. They were telling a story. The first global broadcast came 3 days after the Centauri attack. A holographic transmission spread across every communication network in known space. Prometheus Rising rotated slowly against a backdrop of stars, its surface revealing layers of adaptive technology that defied conventional understanding. No words were necessary. The visuals spoke volumes. Centauri monitoring stations watched in growing horror. Each transmission peeled back another layer of the spacecraft's capabilities. One broadcast demonstrated its ability to generate localized wormholes with pinpoint accuracy. Another showed energy redirection systems that could neutralize entire weapon platforms in microseconds. Yet another revealed computational matrices that could predict and counter threats before they fully materialized. The message was clear. Humanity was not just a surviving species. They were a transformative force. Senior diplomat Krasnak found himself summoned before the Centauri High Council. The massive chamber, a cathedral of alien political power, felt smaller with each passing moment. You presented them with a weapon of humiliation, the chief arbitrator accused, her multifaceted eyes shifting through colors that reflected deep emotional turbulence. And they have turned it into something that threatens our entire galactic understanding. Krasnak had no defense. The human broadcasts continued. Each one was a masterpiece of technological storytelling. Where the Centauri had attempted to demonstrate human weakness, humanity was now demonstrating something far more dangerous: the ability to transform limitation into opportunity. Dr. Walsh called it narrative engineering. Every transmission was carefully constructed to challenge fundamental assumptions about technological development. "We're not just showing what we can do," she explained to her team. "We're showing how we think, our ability to adapt, to reimagine, to transform." Global reaction was unprecedented. Scientific institutions around the world celebrated. Governments that had been rivals weeks ago now found themselves united by a shared sense of potential. Private corporations saw technologies that could revolutionize every aspect of human existence. The quantum communication team developed transmission protocols that went beyond traditional information sharing. Each broadcast contained layers of information, technical data, computational models, hints of potential technological applications that could reshape entire industries. Rodriguez discovered something extraordinary during the transmission analysis. Prometheus Rising wasn't just passively being broadcast. The spacecraft was actively participating in the communication strategy. Subtle quantum resonance patterns suggested it was learning, adapting its own presentation with each transmission. "It's like the ship is helping us tell its own story," he told Dr. Walsh during a late-night strategy session. The Centauri response was predictable. Diplomatic channels went into lockdown. Communication networks became increasingly restricted. But information has a way of spreading, especially when it represents something fundamentally transformative. Scientific communities across multiple alien civilizations began to take notice. The human broadcasts represented more than a technological demonstration. They were a fundamental challenge to established understanding of technological development. Dr. Sharma's quantum interface team tracked the global response. Each transmission generated exponentially increasing interest. Communication networks lit up with analysis, speculation, and growing respect. "We're rewriting the narrative," she explained. "Not through conquest, but through demonstration of potential." The floating tomb had become something else entirely. A living testament to human creativity. A challenge to galactic assumptions. A promise of technological potential that could not be ignored. The Centauri had intended to humiliate humanity. They had instead provided the ultimate catalyst for a technological revolution that would reshape galactic understanding. Prometheus Rising waited in the cold silence of space, a beacon of human innovation, telling a story more powerful than any weapon. The Centauri fleet assembled like a nightmare made manifest. 1,000 warships gathered at the edge of the Orion Nebula, their biomechanical hulls gleaming with technologies that had subjugated entire civilizations. Senior Commander Vexnak stood on the bridge of the flagship, his scaled hands gripping command interfaces with a mixture of rage and desperation. "We will demonstrate the true meaning of technological superiority," he announced to his command crew. Intelligence suggested Prometheus Rising was a single vessel. The humans had been broadcasting their capabilities. Yes, but surely this was an elaborate bluff. No single spacecraft could withstand the combined might of the Centauri Confederation's most advanced battle fleet. They were catastrophically wrong. Dr. Jennifer Walsh watched from the Rocky Mountain Research Facility, her team assembled like a group of scientific warriors. Kyle Rodriguez managed the quantum interface systems. Dr. Elena Sharma monitored computational matrices that seemed to breathe with potential energy. "Prometheus Rising is receiving final system calibrations," Rodriguez called out. The spacecraft responded in ways that defied conventional understanding. Computational systems that were part technology, part something entirely new, began to synchronize. Quantum entanglement matrices lit up like neural networks, creating a level of predictive capability that went beyond traditional defense systems. The first wave of Centauri attacks came with overwhelming force. Plasma streams that could vaporize entire planetary defense networks erupted from thousands of weapon platforms. Quantum destabilization fields expanded, designed to break down molecular structures at their most fundamental level. This was not just an attack. It was total annihilation. Prometheus Rising didn't just defend. It reimagined the very concept of defensive engagement. Weapon energy streams found themselves redirected. Quantum fields collapsed before they could fully form. The spacecraft didn't just counter the attack, it systematically dismantled the Centauri battle strategy with a level of precision that bordered on the impossible. "They're not just blocking," Dr. Sharma muttered, watching the computational models dance across her interfaces. "They're learning, adapting, predicting." Commander Vexnak watched in growing horror. Weapon systems that had brought entire civilizations to their knees were being neutralized faster than they could be deployed. Computational models showed impossible scenarios. The human spacecraft was actively rewriting tactical engagement in real time. The battle wasn't measured in minutes, it was measured in microseconds. Prometheus Rising generated localized reality distortions that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. Energy streams were redirected with a precision that suggested the spacecraft was thinking, calculating, evolving with each moment of interaction. Global news networks picked up the transmission. Millions watched as the impossible unfolded. This wasn't just a defensive engagement. This was a fundamental demonstration of technological potential. Dr. Walsh understood the deeper significance. "We're not just defending," she told Rodriguez quietly. "We're demonstrating a fundamental truth about human potential." The Centauri fleet began to disintegrate. Not through brute force, not through overwhelming firepower, but through a computational dance of such complexity that it defied traditional understanding of technological engagement. Weapon platforms found themselves targeted by their own systems. Quantum communication networks collapsed. Entire ships were systematically dismantled by their own computational matrices, redirected by intelligence that was simultaneously defensive and transformative. 17 minutes after the initial engagement, not a single Centauri vessel remained functional. Prometheus Rising hung in the cold silence of space, not as a conquering weapon, but as a sentinel of unexpected potential. The spacecraft wasn't just a technological marvel. It was a living testament to human creativity, collaboration, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. Commander Vexnak's final transmission was a study in contained terror. They did not just defend. He reported to his rapidly collapsing command structure. They reimagined the very concept of technological engagement. The Centauri Confederation went into immediate communication lockdown. Diplomatic channels froze. The galactic power dynamics had just been fundamentally rewritten. Back on Earth, the research team celebrated with a mixture of professional pride and scientific excitement. They had done more than create a defensive system. They had demonstrated a fundamental truth about human potential. Dr. Rodriguez's analysis was succinct. The spacecraft doesn't just respond to threats. It learns, it adapts, it evolves. The floating tomb had become something else entirely, a beacon of human innovation, a challenge to established galactic assumptions, a promise of technological potential that could not be ignored. Prometheus Rising waited in the cold silence of space, a living testament to humanity's extraordinary capacity to transform the impossible into the inevitable. The aftermath was not what anyone expected. Humanity did not seek total conquest, did not demand unconditional surrender. Instead, they chose something far more powerful, a calculated demonstration of technological and diplomatic superiority that would reshape galactic civilization. Ambassador Marcus Reyes stood before the Emergency Galactic Council, Prometheus Rising's holographic representation hovering behind him like a silent guardian. Delegates from dozens of alien civilizations watched with a mixture of terror, respect, and barely contained curiosity. "We are not conquerors," Reyes began, his voice calm and measured. "We are innovators, transformers, a species that sees potential where others see limitations." The diplomatic chamber was a study in controlled tension. Centauri representatives sat frozen, their biomechanical exoskeletons barely concealing their humiliation. Other species leaned forward, desperate to understand the technological miracle that had just rewritten galactic power dynamics. Dr. Jennifer Walsh and her team had prepared extensively for this moment. The spacecraft was more than a weapon. It was a message, a testament to human potential. Kyle Rodriguez managed the technical presentations. Each demonstration was carefully choreographed, not to intimidate, but to educate. Quantum computational models showed how Prometheus Rising could be adapted for scientific exploration, medical research, environmental restoration. "We're offering a new paradigm of technological development," Dr. Elena Sharma explained during a critical briefing. "Not conquest, collaboration. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected quarter. The Marin Confederacy, a scientifically advanced species that had long viewed humanity with cautious skepticism, approached with a proposal of joint research initiatives. Other civilizations followed. Where the Centauri had seen a primitive species to be humiliated, the galactic community now saw a transformative force. Technological exchange programs were proposed. Research collaborations emerged. The floating tomb had become a beacon of possibility. Senior diplomat Krasnak, stripped of his previous authority, found himself reassigned to a diplomatic outpost on the edge of known space. His final report was a masterpiece of contained despair, a detailed account of how a psychological weapon had been transformed into humanity's greatest diplomatic tool. Prometheus Rising underwent a series of public demonstrations that captured the imagination of multiple civilizations. The spacecraft showed capabilities that went far beyond military application. Environmental restoration technologies, quantum communication networks that could connect distant civilizations, medical research capabilities that could revolutionize healthcare across species. Dr. Rodriguez discovered something extraordinary during these demonstrations. The spacecraft wasn't just a technological marvel. It was learning, evolving, becoming something that defied traditional understanding of artificial intelligence. It's not just a tool, he told Dr. Walsh during a late-night analysis session. It's becoming a collaborative partner. The economic implications were staggering. Human research institutions became the most sought-after collaborative partners in the galaxy. Technologies developed from the study of Prometheus Rising began to reshape entire industries: space exploration, medical research, computational systems, energy production. Ambassador Rice understood the deeper significance. This wasn't about military victory. This was about fundamentally reshaping galactic understanding of technological potential. We were given a floating tomb, he told the Emergency Galactic Council. We transformed it into a living testament of collaborative potential. The Centauri Confederation found itself increasingly marginalized. Their technologies, once considered the pinnacle of galactic innovation, now seemed primitive compared to the collaborative approach humanity demonstrated. Global reaction on Earth was a mixture of pride and profound responsibility. Universities expanded research programs. International collaborations reached unprecedented levels. The scientific community saw a future limited only by imagination. Dr. Walsh's team became global heroes, not for their military achievements, but for their fundamental reimagining of technological potential. Book deals, speaking engagements, documentary series that explored the journey from a floating tomb to a galactic beacon of innovation. Prometheus Rising remained a symbol, not of conquest, but of transformation. The spacecraft continued to evolve, to learn, to demonstrate the extraordinary potential of collaborative innovation. The floating tomb had become something else entirely, a bridge between civilizations, a promise of technological potential that could not be ignored, a living testament to humanity's extraordinary capacity to transform the impossible into the inevitable. In the cold silence of space, Prometheus Rising waited, a beacon of hope, innovation, and unlimited potential.